These are all 79 crews in One Piece, and today I'll be explaining and ranking each one. This includes everything from currently active crews, former crews, mercenary groups, and even some mysterious crews we know very little about. And let's start with one of the strongest crews in the entire show, the Blackbeard Pirates. The Blackbeard Pirates are a cunning bunch of individuals who have the will and desire to take over the world. Their captain, Marshall D. Teach, was a former member of the Whitebeard's pirate crew before he killed his superior and defected in order to get his hands on the Yami Yami no Mi. Whilst operating under the radar, Blackbeard managed to assemble a pretty dangerous crew, powerful enough to eventually earn a spot as one of the 7 warlords of the sea. After Luffy broke into Impel Down, Blackbeard used the opportunity to free some of the world's worst prisoners and recruit them to his crew. This made his crew way stronger than before, and in the upcoming war, they managed to kill Whitebeard and steal his devil fruit. Armed with 2 of the most powerful devil fruits, Blackbeard took over the pirate island Hachinosu and made it his main base of operation. Throughout the time skip, he and his crew killed numerous strong individuals in order to steal their devil fruit powers as well, which eventually earned them the Emperor title. In terms of hierarchy, Marshall D. Teach acts as the admiral of his crew, and underneath him are the 10 Titanic captains, which includes the likes of Van Augur, Shiryu of the Rain, Lafitte, and former Marine Admiral Kuzan. Each of these captains has their own ship, whereas the flagship of the crew is called the Saber of Zebak. Although we don't know this crew's true power, they are definitely among the strongest in the series, 6th place. The Brownbeard Pirates. Seen for a brief moment during the events of Punk Hazard, the Brownbeard Pirates were a decently strong crew as they were able to thrive in the New World and even managed to take over one of Whitebeard's territories, 𝐿'Fuud-Vulten, before Hawkins essentially crippled all of them. Thanks to Law, the Brownbeard crew became animalistic mutants and started working for Caesar Clown on Punk Hazard. Their ship was called the Charles Martel, and they were led by their captain, Chadros Higaleyes, aka Brownbeard. 46th place. There are still 77 crews left to cover, and let's continue with Kid Pirates. Led by Captain Eustace Kidd, the Kid Pirates are a group of former gangsters who banded together in order to finally make a name for themselves. Together with his vice captain, Killer, Kidd and his crew have wreaked havoc all over the Grand Line. They were ruthless when it came to getting what they wanted, hence they didn't hesitate to hurt civilians for their goals, which ultimately earned Kidd a bounty of 315 million berries pre-time skip. They are a strong crew with around 30 members, and their flagship is called the Victoria Punk. Although Killer and Kidd are the 2 strongest members of the crew by far, the others aren't that weak, with the majority of members being able to resist passing out from Rayleigh's immense hockey. After Kidd's alliance with Luffy and Law, he and his crew played a crucial part in taking down Big Mom, one of the 4 emperors. They were one of the crews that were closest to attaining the One Piece, but sadly, they decided to challenge Shanks when they arrived on Elbaf, which didn't really go that well for them. It's a pretty impressive crew nonetheless. 13th place. The Buggy Pirates. Despite being one of the former Pirate King's apprentices, Buggy the Clown wasn't as capable as Shanks when it came to being a pirate. So instead of pursuing the One Piece, Buggy stayed in the East Blue and formed a crew there in order to terrorize smaller islands. Some of the notable members were Moji, Richie, and 𝐾𝐫𝐨𝐝. Anyway, although Buggy Pirates were considered dangerous at the start of the show, they were defeated relatively easy by Luffy and Zoro. It's a typical East Blue fodder crew, 73rd place. However, that's not where Buggy's story ends. Buggy's Delivery. After Buggy became a warlord of the sea during this time skip, he founded Buggy's Delivery, or Pirate Dispatch Organization, which pretty much acted as a mercenary group for hire. The exact organizational structure and hierarchy of this crew are unknown, but Buggy had full authority over it. The organization labeled all mercenaries by class, with Hadrudin and 4 other giants being S-class, the strongest rank in the organization. Their base of operation was Karibari. After Buggy's status as a warlord had been revoked and Crocodile demanded that he repay his debt, Buggy had no choice but to offer himself and his company's services at Crocodile's full disposal, free of charge. 18th place. Cross Guild. The Cross Guild is a powerful organization headlined by 3 former members of the 7 warlords of the sea, Buggy, Crocodile, and Dracul Mihawk. However, in reality, Buggy is only a figurehead, with Crocodile and Mihawk being the real leaders. The number of people in this crew is currently unknown, but it's presumably a pretty large crew, and they serve mostly as a military organization with no real intention of finding the One Piece. Cross Guild also issues out bounties for Marines and encourages marine hunting. Besides the 3 warlords, the other known members of the crew are Alvida, Moji, �K𝐫𝐨, Mr. 3, and multiple escaped convicts from Impel Down. They are a formidable and dangerous group that is quite influential with the underworld organizations and receives funding from them. Their flagship is called the Big Top Blaster. Man, Buggy made it so far since the start of the series, 9th place. The Bellamy Pirates. The Bellamy Pirates were a group of thugs ruling over Mocktown in Jaya. This crew had 2 main fighters, Captain Bellamy and his first mate, Sarkis. The group's philosophy was strength dictates all, and that strong people had the right to do whatever they wanted to the weak. After their humiliating defeat to Straw Hat Luffy and Blackbeard, the crew faced a ton of backlash from Doflamingo, who they served under as a subordinate crew. During the time skip, they traveled to the New World, and most of the Bellamy Pirates crew members lost their lives, whilst others assimilated into the Don Quixote Pirates. 43rd place. The 𝐿 Pirates. During the Jaya arc, a certain crew was basically picked apart by the Bellamy Pirates, and their fate was left unknown after that. That crew was called the 𝐿 Pirates, led by their captain, 𝐿. Not much is known about them beyond the fact that they probably had only 4 members who all wore similar headbands. 49th place. The Cook Pirates. Sanji's mentor, Red Leg Zeph, was a formidable pirate during the previous era who led a mighty crew across the Grand Line 22 years ago. His goal was to find the mystical All Blue, although none of his fellow crewmates believed in his dreams. Unfortunately, during their travels, his ship sank and all of the crewmates lost their lives during the incident. The captain, Zeph, was the only person who survived along with the crew's latest hostage, Sanji. Zeph later went on to create a world-famous sea restaurant called the Barati, and the crew obviously doesn't exist anymore. 61st place. 9 done, 70 more to go. Some of these upcoming crews are absolutely insane. The Sun Pirates. As a pirate crew that mainly consisted of fishermen liberated from slavery, the Sun Pirates were notorious for their resistance against the Celestial Dragons and the world government. This group of freedom fighters chose to burn a symbol of the sun on their bodies in order to cover their slave markings given to them by the Celestial Dragons. Their leader was a fishman named Fisher Tiger, who was one of the few people who had ever managed to climb the Red Line and free the slaves. After successfully conducting several raids on auction houses and against human traffickers, he amassed for himself a sizable force of both fishermen volunteers and freed slaves. Among them were a few notable figures such as Arlong, Hachan, Knight of the Sea Jinbei, Aladdin, and the future Revolutionary Army member Koala. Fisher Tiger unfortunately met his end during an expedition to return a human member of his crew to her family. Following Tiger's death, Jinbei assumed control of the pirate crew, but it was ultimately disbanded after he became a warlord of the sea and successfully negotiated a pardon for all of his crewmates. Managing to avoid getting arrested for so long after invading Marioa definitely speaks to this crew's strength. 16th place. The Sun Pirates then split into 3 factions: the New Fishman Pirates, the Macro Pirates, and the Arlong Pirates. The New Fishman Pirates. The New Fishman Pirates were committed to seeking retribution for the death of Fisher Tiger and, overall, seeking revenge on the human race. Led by Hody Jones, this pirate crew featured a collection of strong, skilled fishermen, along with a bunch of giant sea beasts and unwilling human slaves. They were organized into specialized squads, each adept in different combat techniques. Driven by their prejudice towards humans, this group conspired to dethrone and kill King Neptune in order to spread chaos and senseless violence all over the world. They were around 100,000 members on the crew. However, most of them were really weak, unable to sustain the blast of Conqueror's Haki. After facing defeat at the hands of the Straw Hats, the New Fishman Pirates disbanded and the top leadership was sent to prison for their crimes against Fishman Island. This crew shows that high numbers don't always equal a strong crew. 22nd place. The Arlong Pirates. After the Sun Pirates disbanded, Arlong, one of the officers, decided not to retire and to instead continue pirating with his own crew. Arlong Pirates held a similar prejudice towards humans as the New Fishman Pirates. However, they did things a bit differently. Instead of trying to dethrone their own king, they went to the East Blue in order to conquer it. Together, they became one of the most dangerous pirate crews in the East Blue, occupying several islands and demanding tribute from villages. Arlong had 4 officers working under him: Kurobi, Hachan, Chu, and their only human member, Nami. Their base of operations was Arlong Park, which is pretty much a replica of the human auctioning house in Sabaudi. This was due to the crew's childhood desire to become accepted into the human society, and to reflect the cruelty of Sabaudi Archipelago's slave trade. The Macro Pirates. The Macro Pirates were the third and the last faction that came about after the dissolution of the Sun Pirates, and this crew only had 3 members: Macro, Gyaro, and Tansui, who all treat each other as equals. They mostly engage in committing petty crimes and selling merfolk they capture to humans. 75th place, the Whitebeard Pirates. Formed by former Emperor Edward Newgate, this crew was one of the strongest modern-day pirate crews. Besides Whitebeard, there were 16 division commanders, each commanding a part of the crew's massive fleet. Some of the commanders included Marco the Phoenix, Portgas d'Ace, Diamond Jozu, and Vista, who is one of the best swordsmen in the world. The Whitebeard Pirates had around 1,600 members, but besides that, they also had 43 subordinate crews under their flag, which easily brings this number to over 5,000 people. Each member of the Whitebeard Pirates considered themselves a family member, and they all treated their captain like a father figure and were treated equally by him. The flagship they called home was the Moby Dick, and it was the largest out of all other Emperor flagships. During their prime, the crew controlled a vast amount of territory on the Grand Line and were pivotal to maintaining peace throughout their lands. The named territories they occupied included Sphinx Island, Boudvalton, Fishman Island, Port Gibraltar, along with many other unnamed ones. They are one of the few crews who survived the test of time, being one of the strongest crews in both the previous and the current era. They were definitely a fearsome bunch, and it took the collective might of the entire Marine Force and 7 Warlords of the Sea in order to challenge them and finally bring them down during the Marineford War. Considering the strength of this crew at their prime, I think they easily deserve 7th place. The Spade Pirates. The Spade Pirates were a group led by the infamous Fire Fist Ace. They were a strong crew and were capable enough to be considered for a warlord title. Besides Ace, the crew had a lot of named members like Masked Deuce, Skull, and Mihar. It was an interesting and diverse cast of characters from different tribes and races, and their ship was called the Peace of Spadil. They were strong enough to reach Paradis in a relatively short time span, and even went up against Whitebeard's forces. During their time together, Ace was considered a supernova in his own right, since he also managed to defeat a former warlord. Ultimately, once Ace joined the Whitebeard Pirates, the rest of his crew integrated and disbanded shortly afterward. 19th place, the Maelstrom Spider Pirates. The captain of this crew was 𝐂𝐑𝐄𝐃, and it was formed over 24 years ago. At one point, they battled against Gul D. Roger, but lost, with all of the members except 𝐂𝐑𝐃 perishing. Eventually, 𝐂𝐑𝐃 rebuilt the crew under Whitebeard's umbrella and became one of his subordinate crews, even backing him during the Marineford War. It's not clear what happened to this crew after the war, but they are presumably still active in the New World. 39th place, the 𝐶𝐸𝐾𝐽𝑡𝐴𝑝𝑢S Pirates. The 𝐶𝐸𝐾𝐽𝑡𝐴𝑝𝑢S Pirates were another independent crew that got absorbed by the Whitebeard Pirates when their captain lost his battle against the Emperor. Their current whereabouts after the Summit War are unknown. 42nd place, the Little Pirates. Even though we didn't see many of his crewmates, Little Oars Jr.'s pirate crew was still an important part of the Whitebeard fleet. The crew consists of normal humans who mimic Oars Jr.'s look, and they're probably pretty strong, considering the fact that they were a crew operating in the New World. Their ship was called the Little Gherae, and their fate is currently unknown, since there's no mention of what happened to their captain after the Summit War. 40th place, the AO Pirates. This is another crew we saw during the Marineford War who were subordinate to the Whitebeard Pirates. Nothing is really known about them. 41st place, the Golden Lion Pirates. Although they haven't shown up in the main story quite yet, the Golden Lion Pirates have been mentioned several times by characters in the world of One Piece. They were one of the most famous crews from the previous generation, led by their notorious captain, Golden Lion Shiki. By far the most interesting thing about this crew is their ship, which is basically a huge floating island controlled by Shiki's Devil Fruit. Also, the Golden Lion Pirates had the largest pirate fleet in history, consisting of over 50 divisions. Although not much is known about the crew's hierarchy, we know that there were 3 important leaders besides Shiki, those being Indigo, Scarlet, and the unnamed doctor of the crew. During their prime, the Golden Lion Pirates had a commanding presence over the seas, and even managed to gain an upper hand against the Roger Pirates at one point. It's not really clear whether this crew is still active or not after all those years, but we know that Shiki is alive and could potentially play a role in the main story at some point. Not many crews are strong enough to corner the Pirate King. 10th place, the Blyking Pirates. When Blackbeard was passing by Drum Island, Walpole took the nation's doctors and army out to sea in order to try his hand at becoming a pirate. It was a short-lived stunt, but his crew were fairly decent at combat and almost got away with taking over the Drum Kingdom with their sheer military might. They sailed on a submersible ship called the Blyking. Eventually, the crew disbanded after Luffy sent Walpole flying to another island. 59th place, the Candy Pirates. The Candy Pirates were a crew only featured in a CP9 cover story, where they were completely crushed during a failed raid on St. Poplar. After the incident, Lucci and the others stole their ship. 60th place, the 𝐲𝐫𝐴 Pirates. The 𝐲𝐫𝐴 Pirates are a pirate crew originating from South Blue, commanded by Captain 𝐲𝐫𝐵. The crew was strong enough to reach Fishman Island, and their captain even earned a 73 million berry bounty. Despite their confidence and experience, the entire 𝐲𝐫𝐴 Pirates were decimated by 𝐂𝐫𝐴 Jones' jaws alone, and only survived because 𝐂𝐫𝐴 spared them in order to use them as slaves. 47th place, the Big Mom Pirates. In order to realize her lifelong dream of diversity, Big Mom set out to the sea to create a land where all races from all over the world could live peacefully together. Therefore, she started marrying many notable figures of every race in order to produce an army of her own offspring. This eventually paid off, and she gained an arsenal of capable warriors unquestionably loyal to her. With several power devil fruit users on the crew, Big Mom's crew became one of the most influential crews in the world, thus proving her status as an emperor. Crew's main base of operation is Totoland, but they have several other territories that they protect in exchange for tribute from the local population, just like they did with Fishman Island. In fact, most of Totoland are just terraformed islands that were in close proximity to each other. Big Mom's crew consists of 3 sweet commanders who work under her: Karakuri, Smoothie, and Cracker. And directly under them are her executive officers like Perospero, Monteor, and many, many more. Underneath all of the officers are the regular combatants and the lower level grunts. The Big Mom Pirates' main flagship is called the Big Mom Chanter, but besides that one, there are many more unnamed battleships, each commanded by a high-ranking officer of the crew. Although the crew is really weak now after Big Mom's defeat, at its prime, it was one of the most feared crews in the world. 8th place, the 𝐂𝐿 Pirates. After Roger visited Zoo for its poneglyph, he inspired a young mink named Pedro, who later set out to sea with a crew of his own. Prominent members of the crew included Beppo's older brother Zeppo and Peccomes. For a while, everything was going according to plan, and each member earned a sizable bounty. However, unfortunately, their journey came to an abrupt end when they faced the Big Mom Pirates on Totoland. Peccomes was forced to join the Big Mom Pirates, while Zeppo was executed. Their captain Pedro barely escaped with his life after he sacrificed one of his eyes and 50 years off his lifespan. The crew essentially disbanded after that encounter. Impressive New World crew, 30th place. The 𝐷𝐴RT Pirates. The 𝐷𝐴RT Pirates are a pirate crew from the North Blue, led by a former warlord of the sea, 𝗕𝗲𝗏 D. Law. The entire crew consists of medical professionals whose only goal is to help Law find out the real meaning behind the D clan. There are a total of 21 members in the crew, including famous Captain Jean Bart and Law's navigator, Beppo. The crew has no specific hierarchy in place. Still, they respect and follow the commands of their captain without question. Their ship is a submarine called the Polar Tang, which houses advanced medical equipment and a fully functional operating room. They were first introduced as one of the worst generation crews during Subauti, and were shown to be pretty capable as they managed to escape from Admiral Kizaru and the Pacifistas. Afterward, they played a role in keeping Straw Hat Luffy alive after the events of Marineford, and wound up temporarily allying themselves with the Straw Hat Pirates in order to take down the emperors of the previous generation and secure their poneglyphs. By the end of Wano, the 𝐷𝐴RT Pirates were one of the crew's closest to attaining the One Piece before they had their poneglyph rubbing stolen by Blackbeard. They held their own against an emperor pretty well. 12th place, the 𝐹oxy Pirates. With a crew of around 500 pirates stolen from other crews using the Davy Back fights, 𝐹oxy the Silver Fox accumulated an impressive group of shipwrights, skilled fighters, and weapons manufacturers. After they tried to steal members of the Straw Hat Pirates during the events of Long Ring Long Land arc, the crew suffered a terrible loss, and their numbers dwindled down to just 3 members: 𝐹oxy, Porsche, and Hamburg. 72nd place, the Rolling Pirates. The Rolling Pirates were a group of unfortunate souls who banded together after their shadows were stolen by Gecko Moria on Thriller Bark. Led by Lola for a while, they sailed together after regaining their shadows back. Their ship is the same one Brook used while he was the captain of the Rumbar Pirates. Together, they even managed to travel all the way to the New World. 55th place, the Big Helmet Pirates. During Water 7, the Big Helmet Pirates caused a commotion at Galley Law and decided not to pay the bill. They were quickly dealt with by the shipwrights at the dock for their behavior, and that's the last time we heard about them. They were led by their captain Mikazuki. 56th place. Okay, that was a lot of pirate crews, but can you believe that there are still 50 crews left? And I can't wait for you guys to see which one is the strongest in the entire show. The Germ Pirates. The Germ Pirates were only seen during a cover story trying to invade Dressrosa while King Riku was away for the revelry. They were easily dealt with and defeated by the Fire Tank Pirates and weren't seen again. 45th place. The Straw Hat Pirates. Destined to become the greatest pirate crew of all time, the Straw Hat crew consists of a bizarre group of characters who have owned their individual skills over time in order to help each other achieve their dreams. Their captain, Straw Hat Luffy, began his journey in the East Blue, and along the way, he created a 10-man crew where each member specialized in a specific role on the ship. The main goal of the crew is to find the One Piece, and along the way, they usually end up liberating various islands from oppression. Luffy's right-hand man and the first character to join the crew is Roronoa Zoro, but the crew has no specific hierarchy that they abide by. Over time, they became one of the strongest Emperor crews on the Grand Line, despite being the smallest crew to have achieved such a status. During the Dressrosa arc, after liberating many pirates from Doflamingo's tyranny, the crew indirectly created a grand fleet consisting of over 5,400 members who all pledged their loyalty to Luffy. Their current ship is called the Thousand Sunny, and it was created from the tree Adam, one of the highest quality materials in the world. Not only that, but the ship was also created by Frankie, Tom's disciple, which kinda makes it a successor to Roger's ship in a sense. Although this crew is relatively new and has only been sailing the seas for less than 3 years, they've gone up against some of the strongest crews in the world and have even successfully taken down another Emperor crew during their travels. Also, due to Luffy possessing the Hito Hito no Mi, Model Nika, the Straw Hat Pirates are especially feared by the government, which makes them a much bigger target than some of the other Emperor crews. I don't doubt they will become the strongest crew by the end of the show, but for now, 4th place seems fitting for them. The Bardo Club. Captained by the notoriously laid-back user of the Bari Bari no Mi, Bartolomeo, Bardo Club is essentially a collection of individuals who are super fans of the Straw Hat crew, specifically Monkey D. Luffy. The crew numbers 56 people in total, and one thing we know for sure about them is that they are all terrible when it comes to sailing a ship. However, despite that, this crew was strong enough to make it all the way to the New World, which is no small feat. Besides the captain, the only other named member of the crew is the staff officer, Gambia the Missionary. Their flagship is called the Going Luffy, and yeah, it's exactly what you would expect it to be. After the events of Dressrosa, this crew is officially a member of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, and they mostly spend their time spreading Luffy's influence throughout the world. Although nobody really asked them to do that, 37th place. The Beautiful Pirates. With a strong crew of around 74 members, the Beautiful Pirates are led by their captain, Cavendish, a prince who was exiled from the Bourgeois kingdom. Although they're a supernova crew of their generation, not much is known about them. However, they did manage to survive in the New World for 3 years without joining hands with an emperor, which is pretty impressive. Eventually, during the Dressrosa arc, they pledged their loyalty to Luffy and became the first ship of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Captain Cavendish's second in command is a man named Suleiman and his horse Faru, while the rest of his crew members remain unnamed. Their flagship is called the Sleeping White Horse of the Forest. 31st place. The Ideo Pirates. Formerly known as the XXX Gym Martial Arts Alliance, the Ideo Pirates are basically 4 people who have formed the smallest crew in the story so far. The crew consists of a captain, Ideo, a martial artist named Blue Gilly, and 2 bounty hunters named Abdullah and Jet. All 4 of these individuals were former contestants at the Corrida Coliseum and later went on to join the Straw Hat Grand Fleet under the same banner. They currently travel on an unnamed ship donated to them by Orlumbus and simply roam the seas with no clear objectives in mind beyond looting and plundering, waiting for the Straw Hat Luffy to call on them for help at any time. They were last seen stopping a conflict between 2 pirate crews during the whole Cake Island arc. 33rd place. The Tontada Pirates. Formed by a group of warrior dwarves from the Tontada tribe, these little pirates are formidable when it comes to their combat ability and synergy with each other. Even though the Tontada Pirates were formed recently after the events of Dressrosa, they are a valuable addition to the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. And don't let their size fool you, as each of these guys is strong enough to topple an entire building on their own. Their captain is Leo. The vice captains are Bomba and Rompa, and besides them, there are around 200 crewmates. The crew is also well organized, featuring several different divisions like the aviation, reconnaissance, and transport squads. This crew is entirely dedicated to putting their lives on the line in service of Straw Hat Luffy and to becoming brave warriors of the sea, just like their hero, Usoland. And yeah, their ship is also named after their idol, 32nd place, the 𝐿𝐼 Grand Fleet. This armada is the biggest asset to the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. They have a total of 4,300 members, with Orlumbus and his cohort Columbus leading them. Although we don't know the exact feats of this crew, it is supposedly very infamous, and it is even said that sinking this fleet would bring fame to the person responsible. Their flagship is called the 𝐿𝐼, and besides it, there are 5 other replicas of the flagship called the Santa Marias. There are also 50 smaller replicas of the 𝐿𝐼, which are referred to as Nita Marias, which means that this crew has 56 ships in total. Hopefully, we'll see their full strength at some point during the final saga. 23rd place, the Happo Navy. As one of the oldest naval forces in the New World, the Happo Navy enjoys a rich legacy spanning back almost 300 years. During Lord Qin-Zhao's leadership, the Happo Navy was powerful enough to warrant attention from Monkey D. Garp. And this is no small feat, as this guy only goes after the strongest pirates in the world. The crew consists of a large fleet of ships under the command of Qin-Zhao family and has around 1,000 members. The current leader of the Happo Navy is Qin-Zhao's grandson, Commander Sai, after his marriage to Baby 5 following the events of Dressrosa. Their flagship is called the Happo Sai, and their primary fighting style is known as the Hashoken, which is a powerful martial arts technique that allows the user to produce powerful shockwaves. The Happo Navy is also a part of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Considering that Qin-Zhao has retired from the crew, the 34th place seems fitting for them, the Fallen Monk Pirates. Even though they barely show up in the main story and haven't been seen since the events of Dressrosa, the Fallen Monk Pirates, led by their captain 𝐿𝐼, are a collection of dangerous Sky Island inhabitants who seem to be fairly competent when it comes to combat. They held their own against several other crews and managed to invade Big Mom's territory, even defeating one of her sweet commanders. Their ship is called the Hanjumaru, and none of the other members of the crew, besides the captain, have had their names disclosed so far. Their objectives and purpose are also currently unknown. I'll place them in 21st place until we learn more about them. The On-Air Pirates. The captain of On-Air Pirates is 𝐿𝐼 Apu, and besides him, the crew has no named members. They are presumably a pretty strong crew considering their captain's bounty of 350 million berries and the fact that they managed to reach the New World. This crew doesn't really have any feats, and after the time skip, it was quickly assimilated under Beast Pirates, which makes their status as an independent crew unclear. Their ship is called the Stay Tuned. 35th place, the 𝐿𝐼 Pirates. With a rich legacy behind them, this collection of fierce warriors of the 𝐿𝐼 tribe is the only crew to exist on the Calm Belt, despite how dangerous those waters are. Led by the current Empress Boa Hancock and her sisters Sandersonia and Marigold, the 𝐿𝐼 Pirates are a formidable force that usually keeps away from the world's affairs. Their flagship is a galleon named the Perfume Yuda, and it's pulled by 2 giant poisonous serpents that keep the Sea Kings away from attacking the ship. While Boa was a warlord, all inhabitants of Amazon Lily were considered members of the crew under her protection. But now that the warlords are disbanded, the number of current active members of the crew is not really clear. Considering Boa's ridiculous new bounty, I can't place them any lower than 20th place. We are exactly halfway through the video, and I just want to thank you guys for watching the video so far and ask you to hit that subscribe button, as it really helps me make more videos like this. Thank you. The 𝐿𝐼 Pirates. The 𝐿𝐼 Pirates made a brief appearance during the Jaya arc, as the crew's first mate and only known member, Okome, bore witness to the brutal beatdown of the Roshio pirates. 54th place, the fake Straw Hat crew. Following the disappearance of the real Straw Hat pirates during the 2-year time skip, a group emerged that tried to capitalize on the fear and terror spread by Luffy and his crew. The fake Straw Hat crew consisted of weak individuals, with members like Demalo Black, Manjaro, and Drip, looking nothing like their real counterparts, and yet they managed to fool the world. After getting exposed for who they were, the fake Straw Hat crew was almost killed off by Caribou for manipulating them, yet somehow survived the encounter. They were last seen in G4 prison cell and were arrested for trying to impersonate the recently destroyed Kid Pirates. These are basically 8 people who can't even fight. 78th place, the Flying Pirates. Perhaps the closest thing to the legend of the Flying Dutchman we got in the story, Vanderdecken the Ninth's crew consists of fishermen who sail with him on their ship. They were somewhat formidable because of Deccan's devil fruit ability and Waratsumi's strength, but ultimately got arrested for their crimes by the Neptune army. Waratsumi later defected from the crew after his captain was arrested and was banished from Fishman Island. 52nd place, the Masira Pirates. The Masira Pirates, led by their captain Masira, are a part of the Saruyama Alliance. They are pretty much a bunch of ship scavengers and treasure hunters who operate near or around 𝐤𝐤. Their flagship is called the Victory Hunter, and the strongest member of the crew is 𝐵𝐶𝐸 himself, who can take down large sea beasts on his own. 62nd place. The 𝐶zhou Pirates. The 𝐶zhou Pirates were the second part of the Saruyama Alliance and were a group of echolocating explorers who looked for treasure. Led by Captain 𝐶zhou, brother of 𝐵𝐶𝐸, the crew travels on their flagship, the 𝐬𝐻𝑡𝑎N Sonar. Using his strong vocal cords, 𝐶zhou can deal damage to other pirate vessels. His crew also includes a squad of 𝐬𝐻TAN divers who help him use echolocation to find sunken treasure. They focus solely on treasure hunting and not on fighting. So, 63rd place. The Roger Pirates. Arguably the most influential pirate crew that has ever existed, the Roger Pirates were the only crew to make it to Laugh Tale and find Joy Boy's legendary treasure, One Piece. They were also one of the strongest pirate crews on the seas, often clashing with other legendary crews like Golden Lion Pirates, Whitebeard Pirates, and even the legendary marine Monkey D. Garp. However, the most surprising thing about them is that apparently no senior member of the crew had any devil fruit powers. Their ship's name was Oro Jackson, a vessel crafted from treasure tree Adam's wood by the legendary shipwright Tom. Despite their achievements, Roger Pirates were a modest-sized crew, only consisting of around 30 members in total. Among them were the captain, Pirate King Gol D. Roger, his right-hand man, Silvers Rayleigh, his left-hand man, Scopper Gabon, the ship's Dr. Crocus, and the two rookies, Shanks and Buggy. Although they were never defeated or captured by the world government, the crew eventually disbanded after their captain's health deteriorated and he turned himself into the Marines. No need to explain this one, easy second place. The Bonnie Pirates. The Bonnie Pirates, despite being a worst generation crew, are a collection of individuals who aren't really as dangerous as they were initially made out to be. It's a crew full of former fishermen, with the captain, Jewelry Bonnie, being the only person with a noticeable bounty on her head since she successfully evaded the world government for several years. The crew's goal was to find and recover Bonnie's adoptive father, the former warlord Bartholomew Kuma. During their journey, the crew got in a fight against Blackbeard on a burning island in the New World, and after that loss, they were all captured by the Marines. Although Bonnie managed to escape, she left her entire crew behind, and the fate of the rest of the crewmates isn't really clear. Their flagship's name was the Jewelry Margarita. Considering Bonnie's insane power-up during the Egghead arc, I think she easily deserves 25th place. The Fire Tank Pirates. Akin to a mafia family run by their captain Capone Beye, the Fire Tank Pirates are a crew of ruthless cutthroat gangsters from the West Blue. During the time skip, they decided to join Big Mom and fight under her banner, before eventually betraying and attempting to assassinate her with the Straw Hat crew. Most of the Fire Tank Pirates crew members are expert marksmen with firearms, and they also work exceptionally well together as a team. The only named members of this crew are Capone Beye, his advisor Vito, an assassin Gori, and Bege's wife, Chiffon. Before their ship was burned down by Prometheus, the crew used to sail on the Nostra Castello. Currently, they're still actively sailing the seas, and have connections with the underworld who give them jobs. Solid crew, 17th place. The Hawkins Pirates. The Hawkins Pirates don't really have any notable feats to their name besides somehow managing to reach the New World. They were initially a part of an alliance aiming to take down Red Hair Shanks, but were betrayed by the On-Air Pirates and quickly assimilated within Kaido's ranks. The crew's captain is Basil Hawkins. Second in command is a mink named Faust, while the rest of the crew don't have any official names. During Wano, Hawkins suffered a fatal injury from Killer and presumably lost his life. Their ship was called the Grudge Dolph, and it's unknown what the crew did after losing their captain and facing the Marines at Wano. I'd say they're on the weaker end of worst generation crews, 26th place. The Endurance Curry Pirates. Originally created as a gag crew, the Endurance Curry Pirates haven't really been featured in the story beyond a glimpse of them listening to Vegapunk's broadcast during the Egghead arc. The crew supposedly has 4 members, Hippie, Simitarta, Hiru, and Mokuba. 70th place. The Drake Pirates. Originating from the North Blue, the Drake Pirates made quite a name for themselves working for the undercover sword member X-Drake. Not much is known about their strength as a pirate crew, and Drake's crew members don't even have any official names. The only feat that attests to their strength is the fact that they managed to reach the Sabaudi archipelago, whereas most pirate crews succumb to the Grand Line before ever getting that far. Their flagship was a slightly modified marine ship called the Liberal Hind, and the crew disbanded soon after they were assimilated into the Beast Pirates ranks. 36th place. The Giant Warrior Pirates. The Giant Warrior Pirates consist exclusively of, well, giants, which are some of the best warriors in the entire world. This pirate crew has presumably been active for a very long time and has built quite a name for itself. However, around 100 years later, the crew was temporarily disbanded as the two leaders, Dory and Brogy, had a disagreement and decided to duel each other to the death. This duel lasted for around 100 years until Luffy and his crew met them and defused the situation. Following their return, the crew has resumed its activities and is currently a known ally of red-haired pirates. The giant warrior pirates don't seem to have any clear hierarchies. Instead, they rely on the respect each member has gained as a warrior to ascertain the chain of command. Besides Dory and Brogy, some other notable members are Oimo and Kashi, the two giants we met on Ennius Lobby. The crew has used 3 known flagships so far: the Great Magni during the time of the former Captain Jarul and Jorul, then the Great Eric when Dory and Brogy were captains 102 years ago, and finally the unnamed vessel seen during their escape from the Egghead Island. The captains of this crew were strong enough to stand their own against the 5 elders. That by itself deserves at least 14th place. The new giant warrior pirates. This crew is pretty much a spiritual successor of the giant warrior pirates. Their captain, 𝐿 formed the crew in order to pay homage to the legendary pirates that preceded him. The crew currently consists of only 5 members: 𝐿, Stanzen, Rode, Goldberg, and Gerd. Also, each member has a clearly specified role, similar to the structure of the Straw Hat Pirates. They are currently on the run from the forces of Cross Guild for quitting their roles within the organization in favor of forming their own crew and joining the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Their ship is called the 𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐴𝐴, and it has a cool Viking design. 27th place, the Fanged Toad Pirates. The Fanged Toad was a crew of 4 people who managed to survive in Paradis before they lost 5 Davy back fights and key crew members to the Foxy Pirates. They didn't last very long after that, since their ship got promptly attacked by sea monkeys soon after. Their captain's name is 𝐾𝐫𝐫𝐲'𝐬, 68th place. The Usopp Pirates. The Usopp Pirates are a pretend pirate group created by Usopp. The crew members are 3 children from Syrup Village who look up to Usopp and share his dream of becoming great warriors of the sea. The crew members are Ninjin, Piman, and Tamanegi. It's just a couple of kids playing pirates, 79th place. The Caribou Pirates. Led by Captain Caribou, the Caribou Pirates are a somewhat dangerous pirate crew who made their debut during the events of 𝐵𝐲𝐷𝐴 Archipelago. The crew is led by 2 brothers, Caribou and Korobou, while the other members remain unnamed besides the Gravediggers. Their ship is pulled by the former sea beast of the Arlong Pirates, Mumu. Despite their captain being comically lost at sea for the majority of their time on screen, the crew still exists. 44th place. The Gecko Pirates. Before Thriller Bark, Gecko Moria was a super rookie of his generation and has made quite a name for himself with his formidable crew. Unfortunately, around 20 years before the main story, during his travels on the Grand Line, the Gecko Pirates came face to face against the Beast Pirates, and everyone on the crew was slaughtered by Kaido except for Moria. Moria later took this event as a learning experience and decided to abandon his dreams of attaining the One Piece. I don't know about you guys, but surviving a battle against Kaido is enough to earn them 15th place in my opinion. The Thriller Bark Pirates. After Moria disbanded the Gecko Pirates, he formed the Thriller Bark Pirates, which are mostly a collective of zombies revived using Moria's devil fruit powers. The zombies themselves aren't that strong, and the crew numbers up to about 900 undead soldiers. Under Moria in the chain of command are his 3 most trusted confidants, Professor Hogback, Absalom, and Perona, who have the highest authority over the rest of their crewmates. After Absalom was abducted and killed by the Blackbeard Pirates, Moria tried to rescue his crewmate before getting confronted by the rest of Blackbeard's crew on Hachinosu. Much like his crew, Moria's fate is currently unknown. 24th place, the Tulip Pirates. The Tulip Pirates were a bunch of small-time thugs who were easily handled by someone as weak as Captain Fullbody. They were only featured in a cover story and were seen wreaking havoc on Mirror Ball Island before getting arrested. The crew has no named members. 74th place. 20 crews left to go, and very soon I'll reveal which is the strongest crew in the entirety of One Piece. The 𝐴𝐾UMATE Pirates. Operating under their captain, Devil Diaz, the 𝐴𝐾UMATE Pirates didn't get very far. When they reached the New World, their captain was basically sold as a slave to a celestial dragon named Saint Roseward at 𝐵𝐲𝐷𝐴 Archipelago. Diaz eventually died trying to escape his captors when his collar exploded. 48th place. The Don Quixote Pirates. After assuming control of Dressrosa, the Don Quixote Pirates became a juggernaut when it came to their influence and power. They were directly responsible for supplying other countries with weapons that they mass-produced, along with many other shady activities. At its prime, the crew had about 2,000 members, with 17 of them being confirmed Devil Fruit users, thus making them the crew with the 2nd highest number of Devil Fruit users in the One Piece world. Under the captain, former warlord of the sea, Doflamingo, the crew had 4 elite officers who controlled their own mini armies. These included Treble, Diamante, Pika, and Corazon. Besides these armies, there were a bunch of lower-ranked subordinates who belonged to other crews or helped the Don Quixote Pirates achieve their objectives, like Caesar Clown's Science Division, for example. This crew was extremely dangerous, enough to earn themselves the title of warlords and subjugate an entire nation without much effort. They also became an invaluable part of the Beast Pirates' global operations and were basically assimilated within their ranks. After the events of the Dressrosa arc, many members of the crew were arrested by the Marines along with their captain, whilst others defected. Without their captain and most of the heavy hitters, the crew has effectively disbanded. 11th place. The Rumbar Pirates. 50 years before the main story, a crew of musicians sailed the West Blue, known as the Rumbar Pirates. They were pretty strong, but as it usually goes, they eventually succumbed to the terrors of the Grand Line. After exploring a forest, the crew's captain, Yorkie, and several other members fell ill with a virus and eventually succumbed to it. Their main objective was to spread joy around the world with their music. Despite that, the crew carried on with half of its members under Brooks' leadership before they eventually got attacked in the Florian Triangle by a rival pirate crew who rained poisoned arrows on them. After this attack, the crew perished, and Brook was the only surviving member thanks to his revived devil fruit. 53rd place. The Eraser Pirates. The Eraser Pirates were a crew that managed to reach Skypiea before they were attacked by a Shandian warrior, Wiper. Besides their name, there's no information out there about who they were or where they came from. It's assumed the entire crew died after Wiper's attack and their ship was completely destroyed. 71st place. The Barrels Pirates. The Barrels Pirates were led by their captain, Diaz Barrels, a former Marine officer. Despite their captains deserting the Marines, they still brokered deals with them and were in the middle of handing over the 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐵 before 𝐂𝐫𝐵𝐵 stole it from them for law. Angered by the devil fruit's disappearance, the Flamingo used his birdcage to slaughter the entire crew except the captain and his son 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐿𝐵, who had managed to escape before things went south. 38th place. The Black Cat Pirates. The Black Cat Pirates, led by the infamous Captain Kuro, were the main antagonists of the Syrup Village arc. Notable members of the crew besides the captain were Sham, Bushi, and the crew's interim captain, Django. The Black Cat's ship was called the Ɓezin Black. Considering the strength of this crew is not particularly high, they mostly relied on their captain's cunning plans in order to achieve their goals rather than pure strength alone. After a failed attempt to steal Kaya's fortune, they were eventually defeated by the Straw Hat Pirates, which led to the crew's disbandment. 58th place. The Red Hair Pirates. Following Gol D. Rogers' execution, his apprentice, Red Hair Shanks, formed his own pirate crew in order to follow in his late captain's footsteps. Soon after this, Shanks became the youngest emperor of his generation. Interestingly, same as the Roger Pirates, Shanks' crew seemingly doesn't have any devil fruit users, and each crew member relies solely on hockey during battles. Shanks is the chief and captain of the crew. His first man is Ben Beckman, and some of the senior officers include Sniper Yosop, Cook Lucky Roo, Musician Monster, and Dr. Hongo. The crew mostly wanders the globe seemingly without a concrete goal because Shanks likes to enjoy the freedom that comes with living the life of a pirate. During their journeys, they've come face to face against several other formidable pirate crews and have proven to be an incredibly strong group of fighters. Although the Red Hair Pirates oppose the world government, they mostly seek to foster peace and keep the world's power dynamics balanced, even if it means negotiating with the government occasionally. Their flagship is called the Red Force, and they presumably have a lot of islands in the New World under their protection. They also have a lot of subordinate crews who are ready to help if the need arises, although they consist mostly of weak pirates that Shanks protected in the past. To be honest, these guys might even be the strongest crew in the show, but until we see them fight for real, I'll put them in 3rd place. The Puddle Pirates. As a subordinate crew to the Red Hair Pirates, the Puddle Pirates rely on Shanks and his crew for strength, since most of his fleet are people he offers protection to. Also, since they made their debut briefly and quite recently, not much is known about them beyond the fact that their captain's name is Gerotini. 67th place. The Social Club. This is another subordinate crew of Red Hair Pirates, and we've seen them briefly partying with the crew. The captain and only known member is Bandmaster Fugar, and that's pretty much all we know about them. 64th place. The Night Butterfly Pirates. This is yet another crew that fights under Shanks' banner. They are led by Captain Linaria. 65th place. The Borjuis Pirates. They are the last known crew of Shanks' fleet and are supposedly led by royalty, with their captain, Pururulius, being referred to as Princess. 66th place. Only 9 crews are left to cover, and the next one is perhaps the weirdest crew in the entire show. The Space Pirates. Once Enel finally realized his goal and went to the moon, there he found a civilization of robots and a ship belonging to the Space Pirates. Captained by a fox-like being named 𝐂𝐿, these pirates go around mining celestial bodies. 𝐂𝐿 tried attacking Enel, but failed since physical non-hockey attacks don't work on a Logiel user. The crew had several members, but none of them had been named. Enraged by what they did to his precious supposed homeland, Enel wreaked havoc on the crew and destroyed their ship. It is currently unclear whether any of the Space Pirates survived the onslaught. I have no idea how to rank these guys, but the fact is that they don't know hockey, which puts them pretty low on the list. 57th place, the Yes Pirates. The Yes Pirates, led by Billy the Orca Killer, were a weak crew of 3 people from the East Blue. Unfortunately, they never got the chance to enter the Grand Line because they crossed paths with Captain Smoker. They were promptly arrested after that encounter. 77th place, the Blue Jam Pirates. Around 12 years before the main story, the Blue Jam Pirates were a small-time crew in the Goa Kingdom who involved themselves with petty crime and operated under their captain, Blue Jam. Their base of operations was on Dawn Island at the Great Terminal, and their ship was called the Blood Batako. There weren't a lot of people on the crew, and most of them were pretty weak as well. They crossed paths with Luffy, Sabo, and Ace when the trio were children, and were swiftly defeated soon after. 69th place, the Krieg Pirates. Once feared all across the East Blue, Don Krieg's armada was a force to be reckoned with. The Krieg Pirates had a fleet of around 50 ships, with 5,000 members at their peak. After their humiliating defeat on the Grand Line, their numbers dwindled down to just 1 flagship and only 100 men. Their massive flagship was called the Dreadnought Saber. After invading Baratie, the Krieg Pirates lost to the Straw Hat crew and effectively retreated soon after. Some prominent members of the crew were the Captain Don Krieg, Jin, and Pearl. They were last seen listening to Vegapunk's broadcast on Hachinosu during the Egghead arc, and have seemingly been assimilated under Blackbeard's banner. Impressive numbers, but pretty pathetic. 51st place, the Alvida Pirates. The Alvida Pirates are the first crew we see in the story, and quite possibly one of the weakest. They were relatively unknown in the East Blue before they formed an alliance with the Buggy Pirates to get rid of Straw Hat Luffy. They were led by Iron Mace Alvida and later became a part of Buggy's delivery service and Cross Guild. Surprisingly enough, they did have an island under their domain, Goat Island, and Alvida even had a bounty of 5 million berries. Their main ship, the Miss Love Duck, was a fairly small vessel, akin to the size of her crew. After teaming up with Buggy, none of Alvida's crewmates were seen anywhere with her, so she probably ditched them for new subordinates. 76th place, the Beast Pirates. The captain of Beast Pirates is Kaido, and his goal is very simple: create the strongest possible crew and try to achieve world domination. Since he's gone uncontested for most of his reign, Kaido led a network of criminal organizations across the entire world and even manufactured weapons to promote war. With an unquenchable thirst to recruit the strongest, Kaido formed a super group of individuals that made his pirate crew one of the strongest in the world. Since no one in the entire world could stop him, Kaido thought that he was invincible, and even believed that he was a famous figure, Joy Boy, he heard about in the legends. Under his leadership, the crew quickly rose to notoriety and were feared by the world government, which eventually got them emperor status. Almost all of the members of the Beast Pirates are Devil Fruit users, with the highest ranking officers all consisting of exclusively ancient zone types. Kaido himself is the commander-in-chief, and under him are his 3 executive officers, the All-Stars, King, Queen, and Jack. Then there's the Flying Six, the headliners below them, and finally the Pleasures, Waiters, Numbers, Samurais, and Ninjas at the bottom of the hierarchy. Yeah, as you can tell, it was a pretty massive crew, consisting of nearly 20,000 members. However, following their defeat at the hands of the Straw Hat Pirates, the crew is seemingly disbanded now, with their captain's status unknown. Although he wasn't Joy Boy, Kaido did build an exceptional crew. 5th place, the Sasaki Pirates. Before joining the ranks of the Beast Pirates, Sasaki was a proud pirate who led his own crew called the Sasaki Pirates. There isn't much known about this crew and whether they did anything important or not, but since they were integrated into the Beast Pirates, we can assume that they were pretty powerful. 28th place, the Who's Who Pirates. After Who's Who was dishonorably discharged from the Marines, he decided to start his own pirate crew after escaping the prison. They were eventually assimilated into Beast Pirates, and it's assumed that all of his subordinates within the Beast Pirates are his former crewmates. 29th place, the Rocks Pirates. Probably the most mysterious pirate crew in the show, the Rocks Pirates were a ragtag band of misfits that barely stuck together as a crew. It is believed that the only thing that kept this crew functioning was their captain, Rocks G-Zebek, and his overwhelming strength. The exact number of people on the crew hasn't been disclosed yet, but we know that there were at least 8 members, most notably the 3 former emperors, Big Mom, Kaido, and Whitebeard. Together, the crew aspired to help Rocks take over the world, and their base of operations was the pirate island Hachinosu. The threat this crew posed to the world government was so great that they actually agreed to team up with the pirate king, Goldie Roger, in order to take them down. This eventually led to the God Valley incident, where Garp and Roger fought side by side and finally brought this legendary crew to their knees. If it takes these two guys to bring a crew down, then that crew deserves the first place. And if you liked this video, you'll definitely like this one as well, where I explained all 158 devil fruits in One Piece. Go on, click it.